G'day everyone, welcome to Rule of Reason, and my guest today is Lauren Parker. She is an Olympic athlete, she is a world champion and a friend of mine. So let's get right into it. Lauren, thank you for agreeing to speak with me today. We'll get straight into it because there's so much to cover. Can you speak to us about your life growing up in Newcastle? Your arc of your athletic performance. So how you got into swimming, because that's when I knew you at school, you were doing swimming. And then if we maybe start with that up to, say, Olympic trials, and then I might jump back in after that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I've always been involved in sport in some way or another. And I grew up as a little girl. I really excelled in swimming and I just loved it. I loved racing. I loved training. By the age of 7, I was racing at like state titles, winning my first medal. I got a bronze medal, I think, there. And that's where the dreams of one day wanting to represent Australia at the Olympic Games started. So by the age of 12, I was swimming like 14 to 16 kilometres a day. And going to school. I've always been so competitive. I just loved it. At the age of 14, I raced at the Olympic Games trials. My event was 200 backstroke. That was my main event. I loved backstroke. But I also did individual medley and stuff like that, and also long distance swimming, so open water 5 kilometre swims. I won national titles there a couple of years in the 5K. My life was all involved around swimming. I would be up at 4 o'clock every single morning before school to do a 2 to 2.5 hour training session, then go to school all day, then back to the pool in the afternoon, home really late, and then do that every day.
And was swimming something that you chose to do, or was it something that your parents sort of got you into and then you just ran with it?
It was something just like I learnt to swim, and my swim instructor and the coach there could see potential like from a very young age. Like I excelled quite quickly, like I learnt quite quickly, and then I was doing like the junior squads, and the coaches were like, if I really want to do it, if I really love it, then they can see potential in me and stuff like that. So I guess like I had good people around me. I was never pressured into doing it. Like it's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good point, because there are obviously a lot of parents out there who maybe want to live through their kids, and so they push them to do sports. And you do see these athletes at the end of their career who go, "Oh, yes, I had success, but I never really wanted to do it." So that was never the case for you. You just loved it.
I loved it. I mean, I didn't want to get up every single morning and go and push in the pool for a ridiculously hard training session. Any athlete goes through that. Like some sessions or some days it's just hard to get motivated, and you don't love it every single time, but overall you do love it. And I did love it, and I was never pressured into doing it. But whilst I was swimming, I was also doing other sports. So I was involved heavily in surf lifesaving, so I would compete in that as well. So I'd also have like board training, open water swim training. I'd go to like surf carnivals for that. So I was doing both, but it came to a time, I think I was 13 or 14, that my swim coach said that I need to choose between one or the other. And in that moment, I chose swimming, and I chose to give up surf lifesaving.
So what surf lifesaving club were you at?
Caves Beach.
That's right.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah. And so, okay, so you focus on swimming. You said at 14 you did your first Olympic trials.
Yep.
Was that daunting, rocking up and just... Because presumably there's no age category at the Olympic trials. So
there's no.
Everyone.
Yeah, so I was quite young, but I mean, there was a lot of young swimmers. You can still qualify for Olympics at that age. And it was quite daunting, because I was like racing against like my idols and I looked up to and who were older than me. They were Olympians, and I remember I made it to like the semi-final of the 200 backstroke in those trials, which was pretty good. Considering I was so young, so like my aim was to not necessarily make the Olympics in those trials, but like the next ones in 4 years after that. I would just go to those trials when I was 14, just for like race experience, racing the top girls in the sport, and it was pretty cool.
Did you find that having that attitude of, because I'm not here to qualify, it relieved a bit of the pressure? You were just there to swim?
Yeah, definitely. I was there to swim, but I was an athlete who would get so nervous, like so nervous. I would almost be sick, like standing behind the blocks when they'd call your name out over the loudspeaker. So when you're in a semi-final or a final, you line up behind your blocks, and then the person on the loudspeaker presents you like each lane. And when it got to me, like I'd be so nervous, almost crying in my goggles. I'd make myself so sick. And once the race starts, though, it's all fine. It all goes away. But I really had to learn over many years how to control my nerves and how to deal with them in a good way.
Yeah, I guess one thing I'll bring up for everyone watching and listening. So when I messaged you about this episode and you said, what sort of questions are you going to ask? And I said, look, don't be nervous. It's just a conversation. And your response was, I don't get nervous, which I love, right? It's probably going to help a lot of young people. As someone who was that nervous to now, I don't get nervous. What do you reckon? Do you have a specific thing you did to overcome it?
I don't think so, but just practicing race practice and just being confident in yourself, that takes away a lot of nerves, or you're able to control them better if you're really confident in what you're doing. But I think it just developed over the years, and I, got older, and I'm not sure. I can't pinpoint exactly, but yeah, when you ask me if I get nervous for like these types of things, I like public speaking or podcasts, interviews. Like I don't get nervous anymore. For my sport, I still get nervous. Like at the Paralympic Games in Paris, like the nerves were still there, but I know how to use them in a good way, or I know how to control them. I think about, the preparation that I've had, all the good sessions that I put in, and that tends to calm the nerves a little bit. And I also think about, the opportunity that is ahead of me, or the race that's ahead of me, because not many people have those opportunities. So to really be in the moment and enjoy it. So that's how I got through the nerves at Paralympics. But yeah, I don't get nervous for like public speaking, which is crazy, because when I was back at school, you might remember, like I was no good. Like I hated getting up and talking in front of everyone. I was quiet, and then after my accident that left me in a wheelchair, I was like thrown into it. Like I was asked to do heaps of media interviews, like go to schools, businesses to do talks, and I just said yes to everything because, I had a platform to tell my story and help people. So I really had to just get used to it quickly. And after you do things for, repetitively and get used to things, then you get better at it and the nerves go away. But yeah.
Well, to avoid jumping ahead, because I do want to talk about all of that. So you're doing the Olympic trials every year, and I remember this because it was always talked about at school. Oh, Lauren's Olympic trials, it was great. And I remember watching you doing the individual medley. So you obviously had either added that, or that had become your race as you got older.
I added it. So my main race was still 200 backstroke, but I would do individual medley as well.
And I remember watching you probably the last time you would have done the trials, you'd know the timeline better than me. And I remember Stephanie Rice beating you, and thinking, gee, that was so close, because it was so close. But in that same year, if I've got my dates right, I also reached out to you and said, hey, I'm just doing this fun triathlon in Newcastle called the Spark Helmore.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in doing the swim leg? Expecting you to say no. And you're like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
To me, I don't want to hijack the conversation, so I'll give you my perspective after yours. But for you, when I asked you, did you think, this would just be something fun and then I'll go back to swimming? Or like, did it mean anything to you other than, it's just a fun swim on a weekend?
Like I said yes because I thought it would be fun to be involved, and like when I was at school, I didn't even know triathlon existed really, so that was a great introduction to the sport, I guess. And I remember being there that day, and like I fell in love with triathlon that day, just because of the atmosphere. Everyone was so supportive, having fun. Some were there to get their best times, and we were there as a first like relay team for a triathlon, and it was just like super fun. Yeah. I'd never thought it would be the start of like my career. I never thought about it.
Yeah. And it's funny how life has these moments that are sort of, it's just another day, and it turns to be sort of that pivoting point. So for those who, well, most of you won't know the event. So it's just a corporate triathlon in Newcastle, and it's a swim, bike, run, short course. I think your swim was 500 meters or something.
Yeah.
Lauren went into the water there was 2 waves of swimmers, and I was the bike. So I was the transition from you, and I was like, well, I can just sort of hang around. There's no rush, because a whole wave of swimmers have to come out before you come out. And I'm just standing around, and someone goes, hey, is that Lauren? And I look over, and you're there frantically looking for me, and you'd overtaken the entire first wave of swimmers. And so I've like, oh, sorry, run over and jumped on the bike. And we ended up coming third that day.
Yeah.
And as I said to you before, it's only because of your swim, but it's not because of my mediocre bike or Dan's run. But that obviously started a love of triathlon. So after that, what did your career look like as far as like deciding I'm not doing swimming anymore, I want to do those conversations with like family who have been with you for all these years as you've trained for Olympic trials, and now you're going, I'm not doing that anymore. What did that all look like?
Yeah. Well, firstly, going back to that event, like I remember us sitting on the grass afterwards at the presentation, just looking at this amazing bike that was on the stage, like that they were raffling off, and we're like, oh, wouldn't it be so awesome to own one of them one day or to win it, you know? So expensive. Like, I don't know, it would have been like 15 grand or something. I don't know. But yeah, then to think that I actually like saved up and got one like a few years later, and that would, like, doing triathlon would be my career. It was just crazy. But after that event, then obviously we finished school. I had a year off. So I was in the stage where I wanted to stop swimming because I didn't have the love of it anymore. But it's always what I've done, and it's all I knew. So it was like I couldn't quit because for one thing, I didn't know what to do, and it was one thing I could do well. But then I did my first full triathlon that I did myself was again at Spark Helmore at the same event in, what year was it? 2009, I think, or 2008, maybe 2008. And yeah, I fell in love with it, but I need to step back a bit. Now, I wanted to do that event, and I remember I didn't have a bike. So I looked in the local newspaper and I saw a bike for sale. It was like $500. Went and picked it up, and so that's the bike I used in my first triathlon at Spark Helmore. And from there I just fell in love with it, and a coach saw me there and said he thought I could have potential in the sport because I was a good swimmer. And
did you win that day?
I can't remember actually. where I placed. I may have won my age group. But yeah, from there, like a year after, like I joined this training group. He was the coach for the national. He was the national talent identification coach for like the Australian triathlon team, and so I joined his squad. He was based in Newcastle. Had a group of like amazing triathletes, and yeah, a year later I was racing around the world, doing international events, and that's, you know, I had goals of trying to qualify for the Olympics in triathlon then. So I transitioned quite quickly from swimming to then triathlon, just because I found a new love with it.
Which is amazing. I mean, you think a lot of the people that you would have been competing against, training with, they had been doing triathlons when all those years when you were doing swimming, they were doing triathlon.
Yeah.
And then you rock up and you're like, yeah, sweet, I'm just going to go to the Olympics. It's fine, whatever. There's a theme to that with everything that you've done, and we'll get to that. But you're training with this coach in Newcastle. Was he, and I might have missed it, was he affiliated with the AIS at the time? Okay. So you had started doing international events, as you said. Had you qualified for the Australian team? Had that for the Australian Triathlon Olympic team?
Or for triathlon? No,
yeah.
no.
Okay.
That was just a goal of mine. And I had many injuries as an able-bodied athlete. I had 8 stress fractures in my legs, like 3 in my femur and 5 in my shins, coming from a swimming background. Then to having load through your legs from running running, my bones would just keep breaking down. And each stress fracture that I had like 15 to 20 weeks off running. And, you know, I'd go to races just unprepared. I never did one triathlon fully prepared with like a full race preparation, just because I was like always injured. And that was hard. But like, so that when I was doing short distance triathlons, which is the Olympic, what you do at the Olympics, I was getting like a lot of those injuries. But when I started longer course triathlon, like Ironman, half Ironman and Ironman distance, I wouldn't be as injured as often. I guess even though it's high stress on your body still, I guess you're going like slower and it's more endurance based
lower
training.
Intensity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Rather than the high intensity like training that you would do for Olympic distance. So
did you find and for those that are watching, you can see a collection of Lauren's medals, and I asked, this isn't even close to all of your awards that you've won, but I thought it would be prudent to show that you've got Ironman medals, both able-bodied and para. Did you find the longer distance was easier on your body but harder mentally because of you're going for so long? I mean, were you doing sub 9 hours?
No, I wish.
Sub 10?
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it's 10 hours of constant exercise.
Yeah.
So the intensity from the Olympic level is reduced because it's endurance, but now the time that you're competing for is so long. Was that a challenge, or it didn't really bother you?
Oh, no, it was a challenge physically and mentally, like a big mental challenge, especially when you get to that 30K mark of the marathon after already a 3.8 kilometre swim and a 180 kilometre bike ride. That 30K mark is where your body starts, breaking down and screaming because you're in pain. But it's a mental battle the whole day, but that's where it really becomes a challenge, that last 12K of the marathon.
So when you were doing Ironman, because obviously Ironman doesn't qualify you for the Olympics, but that was what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Were you doing Olympic course and Ironman at the same time, or had you stopped doing Olympic?
I stopped doing Olympic because when I did my first half Ironman, I, again, fell in love with that distance. I was much better at endurance events and I really thrived on it. I loved it. So I qualified for World Championships for the half Ironman after doing my first one. Then like a year later, I did my first full Ironman, and that was at Port Macquarie. And I qualified for the Ironman World Championships in Kona, like the Hawaiian Ironman, from that first Ironman that I did. So I just, loved it. And then my goals for the sport was to one day become Ironman World Champion, which is the pinnacle of the sport. Everyone wants to win Kona, which is the Ironman World Championship. So.
And like not age winner, like you want to win.
Outright as a professional.
Yeah, okay.
That was my goal.
So you went to Kona for your first time, because you've been a few times. How did you go?
So that was 2014. I went to and did my first Kona. 7 weeks before that, I broke my elbow. I had a bike accident, ran over a dead kangaroo in training.
It's a very Australian thing to do.
I know. And came off, broke my elbow. So that last 7 weeks, I wasn't going to pull out of Kona because like everyone wants to get there. So that last 7 weeks, I'm swimming with my arm strapped to my body, with just swimming with one arm. I put my bike on a stationary trainer in my garage, having this arm strapped to my body, riding on the spot, and again running on a treadmill, this arm strapped to my body for the last 7 weeks. And it was still like sore for the actual race, but I managed to get through it, and I got 10th after that sort of preparation in my age group. But then 2015 I also qualified and went back to Kona, and again I didn't have a great race preparation. I got injured, another stress fracture in my shin, and I still ended up going there, and I got second in my age group. Just missed out of becoming like Ironman World Championship in my age category in 2015, but it was so close.
I watched that race. Well, I tracked you because I didn't sit there for 10 hours, but I tracked you, and you were winning for a lot of that. It was only the last 10Ks?
Yeah, or last 8K.
I remember watching on the board the name swap. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's so close to the end.
Yeah. But I was like running, walking. I was in that much pain because I had a good 30K in my legs of I was prepared for. But yeah, again, that last 12K. But anyway, I got second, and then after that year, after 2015, I turned professional and to start my pro career.
So for those who maybe don't know what that means, what does it mean to turn pro? Like, what changes for you when you make that distinction? Is it you're now paid to do it? Is it just I now have a pro card so I can compete at different events?
Yep.
Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, you have to apply to get a pro card, and then you can race as a professional in the professional category at any of the Ironman events.
Okay, and then if you're in the pro category, what does that? Is it purely just I can now race with the pros? I don't have to start the race further back, or is it like there's different prize money for pros versus amateurs, or it's the same for everyone?
Yeah, so there's prize money for professionals, not for amateurs, and yeah, so you'd start. You're the first wave basically. You don't start further back. You just start with the professionals, and then everyone else starts. But back when I was doing Ironman, there wasn't a lot of prize money. Now, if I was still doing it, there's heaps of prize money. There's heaps of different other events, not necessarily Ironman branded events, but a lot of long distance events around the world now that all the athletes are winning lots of money.
Yeah, so they're actually able to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, now's probably as good a time as any to address your accident. Mm-hmm. So were you training, this is Ironman training you were doing?
Yep.
Okay. Were you with a team or by yourself?
I was with 2 training partners.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to go sort of through that story of what happened?
Yep. So I was training for Ironman Australia in Port Macquarie in 2017. And like I said before, throughout my triathlon career, I never started a race fully prepared because of my injuries. But for this race, Ironman Australia in 2017, like for a year and a half prior, that was my focus. Like I had a long race prep leading up to that, as in like I was patient, I didn't rush anything, I made sure I wasn't injured so I'd get a good preparation done. And for that race, I had the best preparation I'd ever had. I wasn't injured for the first time in my life for a race, and I was just feeling so good and so strong. I was ready to hopefully win my first professional race. And 2 weeks out from that event, I was on my last hard training ride before tapering down and going up to the race, up to Port Macquarie to get prepared. But I had 2 minutes left of this training session, of the main set of this training session I was doing, and all of a sudden both my tyres burst and I went flying into the guardrail at 45 kilometres an hour. Broke a lot of things: broken ribs, punctured lungs, broken pelvis, broken back, broken shoulder, but all that can be repairable. But I also damaged my spinal cord, which left me instantly paralyzed from the waist down. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember how I was feeling. I was just feeling the strongest and fittest I've ever been in my life. And I even remember stepping off the ground and getting onto my bike that day. And yeah, it's strange. And that was my last step.
Because that would have been the last time. Yeah.
But I remember that, and I remember riding off to do my last training session before the race. Anyway, it didn't end well.
So do you remember? Do you have a vivid memory of the accident, of it actually happening as you came off your bike, or did you sort of black out and you've lost periods of your memory?
I've lost periods of my memory, but I remember hearing both my tires burst in the moment, and then it was so I was on the aero bars. But when they burst, I took one, I took one arm off the aero bar to put on the handlebar. And in that moment, the bike, because I'm just riding on the rims now, because both tires were flat, and that made me go into the guardrail. And then I can't really remember anything. I must have hit my head because my helmet was cracked. So that must have saved my life. But I remember lying on the road. I think I was knocked out for a little bit of time, and then I came to, and a lady had stopped in the car, and she was actually a nurse, and she was holding my neck, and I was stressing heaps because I couldn't breathe because my lungs were punctured, and she was calming me down. My friend who was riding with me was standing there over me, and I said to him tell me I'm going to be okay. And he couldn't tell me I was going to be okay. And then I started feeling my legs with my hands. I'm I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. But I didn't think anything of it. I thought I'd just go to hospital and they'd fix me up and I'd be walking out. But that wasn't the case. I went in for the ambulance arrived and rushed me straight to the hospital for surgery to get my spine fused together with rods and screws. And after that surgery, the doctor came in and said, I've got 1% chance of ever walking again, and that I'll need to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair.
So, okay. So when you got that news, did your mind go to this is the way it's going to be, or did you hear there's a 1% chance and you're like, well, then I'm the 1%?
No, I didn't hear the 1%. I think they just say that to give someone a little bit of hope, to be honest.
Because it's already a bad situation. Sure.
But I didn't hear the 1%. It was just he was telling me that I'll need to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair, but I'm yeah, but how long is that?
Yeah, sure. When do I bounce back from this?
It never went through my mind. I had no idea about spinal cord injuries or, anything like that. I'd never thought about it. I certainly never thought I'd be in that position either. And I didn't know what was ahead of me. Yeah, I didn't really know what it meant. So
how long after you were told that? Because you obviously had months of recovery in hospital. how long after you were told that did it sort of hit, oh, no, like, this is real now? This is what it is?
A couple of months after. Like, I spent 3 months in hospital at Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney. Then they moved me to the rehab hospital in Ryde for 3 months after that. But, like, going back to that first night when I had my accident, after, like, friends and family had left, I was just, like, in the hospital bed, no one around, and I'm, like, stuck there. I couldn't move because my back, I just had major surgery, and I was also left with intense pain to 90% of my body. It's called nerve pain, like neuropathic pain, because all my nerves were damaged. And this pain is like a pain I never thought existed. It was just torture, and I still have it to this day. But it felt like I was trapped. I couldn't move from this hospital bed, and I had all this pain, and it felt like my whole body was on fire, being stabbed with needles everywhere. It felt like I was being cut up by razor blades. Like, it's excruciating. And I had to learn from that day that there was no cure for this pain. There was only a few medications that might dull it, or a couple of surgeries I could try that might help reduce it. But in the end, eventually months went by, and I tried all those options, and none of them worked for me because I had the worst case of this neuropathic pain. Like, even the doctor said he's never heard of someone having it to everywhere that they're paralyzed, like the whole body, like 90% of my body, from my chest to my feet. Now, I can't feel anything with to touch, but I still get pain through my body. It's weird. And not just on the surface of my skin, it's throughout my whole body. And I really had to learn how to manage that. I think coming from a sporting background and being an athlete, and knowing how to deal with that sort of pain athletically, like the pain I put myself through in training, I think knowing how to deal with that sort of pain helped me deal with this sort of pain, even though the nerve pain's far worse than any pain I would put myself through in training. So that's one big hurdle I had to get through. But then it was, like I said, a couple of months down the track when I was at Royal North Shore that they were putting me into, like, my first wheelchair. And I remember that day, like it was yesterday, getting into my first wheelchair and going down the hallway in the hospital, and I'm like, I don't want to be in this. I don't want to use my arms. I hate using my arms, stuff like that. You know, it was just hard to get my head around that.
Is it fair to say you're probably grieving the loss of your body?
Yeah, for sure.
And so you had that denial of I'm supposed to be an international level athlete.
Yeah.
This is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
But then going out in public for the first time in a wheelchair, that was probably the hardest. Like, I went out in public and everyone's walking around me, and I'm like, I should be walking like everyone else. Like, why does this have to happen to me as an athlete who values running and, you know, all that stuff? I ended up going back to the hospital room because I didn't want to be out in public. Yeah.
So how did you come to terms with, like, obviously you still have to deal with it daily. I guess it's a two-part question. So you've got the physical pain, the nerve pain that you're dealing with, and you still deal with that now. Mm-hmm. So are you in pain now? Mm-hmm. And how do you, like, we've been talking for a while, and to me, you look fine. Yep. You look happy, you know. But if you're dealing with that constant pain, what have you done to be able to live somewhat normally with a positive demeanor despite constantly dealing with this pain?
Training. I think that's why I got into training so quickly, because that helps. It doesn't take away the pain, but, you know, it distracts me, even though I'm still in pain. But I get to focus on the other sort of pain I put myself through. But like, I'm in pain right now, but I've learned to not show it on my face. And sometimes that's really hard. Like after doing that all day, you just, like when I come home, you just don't want to like put on that face anymore. It's like, it's, what's the word? Draining, like having to put on a smile all the time, or not show pain, because people don't know I'm in pain. Yeah. They don't understand, like I explain this pain, but people don't understand it. And like I wouldn't have understood it if I was able-bodied listening to someone, really, unless you're really living it and know what the pain is like, then you don't fully comprehend it. You can just listen.
But there will also be lots of people out there who, it's one of the interesting things about hospitals when you spend any sort of real time in hospitals. And not for me personally, but my daughter is often in hospital a lot. And when you're there, it gives you an opportunity to see sort of another side of the community that do spend large periods of time in hospital, and you realize that there are people out there that are dealing with what you now deal with on a daily basis. So there will be people that will hear you and go, oh, I resonate with that. To overcome that pain and to overcome the social angst that you had sort of going outside on the wheelchair, the only antidote to that has been mental. And as you've said, you had mental fortitude from all of your sport that you'd done in the lead up to that. So clearly you've got a really strong mind, as well as a strong body, because as we can see from the medals, you're clearly the best in the world at what you do. But at what point did you go, I guess, have that that mental switch where you've gone, well, okay, this is the way that it is. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm not going to wallow in self-pity. At what point do you go, I'm taking responsibility and I'm going to make something out of this, something good out of this bad situation, which I guess leads to Paratri.
Yep.
How did that all happen?
So where my mindset changed was I was able to, when I was in the rehab centre at Ride, I was able to get into the pool for the first time, like into the 15-metre little pool in the rehab centre. But I was so excited, like it's swimming, I thought, was the one thing I could do. I could really show everyone, I can still swim. But I got in the water that day and I put my cap and goggles on ready to go, pushed off the wall with my arm, and I couldn't put two strokes together. My legs just sunk to the bottom of the pool. And then I dog paddled it up to the end. I'm like, I can't even swim. I just spent 20 years of my life training hard, to be a fast swimmer, and now it's all gone to waste. I have no swimming ability anymore. And my friend was there, and he came to the end of the pool and said, I've got two options. One is to get out and go back to the hospital room, shut the door and not do anything with my life, or to stay in the pool, keep trying, keep pushing through and not give up. And I chose that second option, not to give up. And by the end of it, even though it's end of that session, I did 3 very slow, continuous laps. But I really showed myself that if you put your mind to it, then it is possible. So I got out of the pool that day and knew I wanted to do something with my life, get back into sport or something. I didn't know how it was gonna, what it was gonna look like. But after that, a few weeks later, a friend of mine gave me a call. He lives in San Diego, and he actually interviews all the professional Ironman athletes at Kona. And he's got his own breakfast show. It's called Breakfast with Bob, and radio show in San Diego as well. Anyway, I knew him from being associated with Ironman, but he rang me and said, if I really want to get back into sport and back into triathlon, it starts at the San Diego Triathlon weekend in October, and he invited me over there to San Diego to be part of this weekend. And I had no idea what it was going to be like, but I asked the rehab center for 5 days off so I could go to San Diego and back, and they're like, no, they can only give me a maximum of 3 days off. So I ended up signing myself out of rehab and not go back.
How long was this after your accident?
This was like I signed out after 3 months in rehab. So this was 6 months.
Right. So you had
Total.
3 months of recovery, 3 months of rehab, and then
Yep.
you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. And like the rehab is the best decision because the rehab center was so negative. Like, a member of staff said, I'll never be an athlete again, and I need to learn to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. So I really had something to prove.
Yeah.
But anyway, I signed myself out, jumped on a plane the next day, and arrived to San Diego for this triathlon weekend. It's called. He also is he's this guy, Bob Babbitt. He's also the founder of the Challenged Athletes Foundation in San Diego. And the Challenged Athletes Foundation is, he's raised over $130 million for people who have disabilities or that, have lost their legs or just any disability who needs a piece of equipment to get back into sport. So whether it be they fund hand cycles for people or prosthetic legs so that kids can run for the first time in their life if they've been born without legs, so he's made a massive difference to people's lives, like so much. He's a legend. Anyway, so this is the event that he has a triathlon, one triathlon a year to raise money for the foundation. And it's the triathlon that I went over to be a part of. And I turned up and saw so many people and kids with disabilities. Like there was little kids running around without any arms and legs, just running around on their stumps, just with big smiles on their faces. All like they were competing in this little mini triathlon. And then other people that had their legs blown off at war, or like everyone had a story and they were participating in this triathlon. And I wasn't there to compete, I was just there to watch and be part of it. But I saw everyone with smiles on their faces, just having fun and competing in the triathlon. And that's where the motivation and inspiration came back to me. Like that's where it all started from. So I came home and sourced the equipment that I needed, and I got my first hand cycle funded through the Challenged Athletes Foundation. And yeah, it all started from there. So they inspired me to pretty much do what I've done in my whole para athlete career.
Do you reckon that was Bob's angle? Do you reckon like he encouraged you to come over because you'd had this happen, wanted to take your mind off it, but do you think secretly he's like, if Lauren comes, this will be the path she takes?
Definitely, because like he knew what was possible. He sees it all the time, like what or people with disabilities can do when they're given an opportunity or given the right equipment that they need. Yeah, even not to be like Paralympians, even just to, I don't know, just find value in sport. And sport saves lives, saved my life getting back into sport. If I wasn't able to, I don't know where I'd be.
Well, and that was, I guess, the question I was going to ask when you went from rehab to, no, I'm going to go into this sport. And I guess we sort of touched on it when we talked about you use training to distract yourself from the pain that you're in. It's important, especially when you've had a tragedy like you had. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's important to have a purpose and something to go, well, no, this isn't the end. It's just a change of direction.
Yeah.
Would you say it's pretty fair that a lot of the athletes that you compete against, train with, or saw on that day, that's sort of what that was, being able to go into try in this instance, or para-try, reignited that, I've got a purpose again? Is that what it was for you?
Yeah, definitely. It reignited the purpose and what was possible, gave me the opportunity to set new goals again, to focus on what was ahead of me, not what was behind me or what I had just focus on the opportunities that were ahead of me. That's what helped get me through every single day, rather than focus on the things I didn't have anymore. I had to focus on what I still have and what I could still do, because I was one of the lucky ones, because my accident could have been so much worse. I was in rehab with quadriplegics. And so I really had to be grateful for where I was at, and that I was still able to get into sport and get into the sport that I loved.
Can we just linger there for a second? Because I think you've sort of just thrown away a line, but I think it's really important for a lot of people in general, not just people who have had injuries. You've had something awful happen to you, and rather than wallow in self-pity, you've looked at people that have it worse than you, and you've gone, I can choose to sort of lick my wounds and be sad and, well, woe is me. But you chose to have that perspective of it could have been worse, and I'm lucky because I still can do things. It's the exact same outcome of your injury, but one leads you to that, as you said, just close yourself off in a room and then that's it for you. Yeah. And the other pathway that you took, well, led to all of this. And it's amazing how that simple, it seems like a simple decision. It's not a simple decision, but when you have something that traumatic happen and you go, okay, this sucks. And compared to what I used to have, I hate this. But I also know I could have died. I could have snapped my neck, and then, so, okay, all right, well, I need to make sure that I make the most of what I do have.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to stop there is because I think one thing that defines you compared to a lot of people is that mental strength that you have. I don't think everyone has that. I think a lot of people, especially, there wouldn't be many people in the world who would go through what you went through and 6 months later be going, cool, I'm just going to go train now in this new sport that I've never done before. A lot of people would take a lot longer. And so that's sort of credit to you in that clearly your mental strength is your strongest asset that has allowed you to achieve at such a high level, because you just go, okay, let's just get on with it. Let's just do this. So you're at the event in San Diego. You've been given your first chair through that foundation. How long did you train for to learn para-tri? Because it is different from able-bodied tri. How long from picking it up, learning the sport, did you then find your first event?
So I raced in my first event 9 months after my accident. So I only had like a couple of months to train in with my new equipment. I had to learn how to use a hand cycle, a racing wheelchair, and learn to swim again. But swimming for like para athletes, you wear wetsuit pants for buoyancy in your legs. So once I figured that out, I got the wetsuit pants. I have a strap that goes around my legs. I also have swim splints that go behind my knee. They're molded to my leg, made out of carbon. So they keep my knee straight. And so then I'm swimming, like my legs are buoyant, and I'm swimming like almost normal again. So that's how I swim. So I'm not back to that rehab pool and sinking to the floor. So I raced my first para-triathlon and I qualified for the Commonwealth Games in that triathlon.
I knew that's where you were going with that, but I love that. It's like, oh yeah, I just picked this up the other day, and oh, by the way, I'm now going to the Com Games.
Yeah, and then I raced at Com Games 11 months after my accident, and I got bronze there.
Which is amazing. It is so amazing. I followed along with that as well. I couldn't believe that. But again, it's just testament to you and the fact that you never gave up.
But I had many hard days, like days where I just didn't want to train because I hated using my arms, and then I had to, again, change my mindset to get on top of that and think about the thing, like I said before, the opportunities that I have. And perspective is a big one that I learned after my accident. Like when, just perspective. Like after my accident, I would hear people complaining about the littlest things, And I'm like, if only you knew. And they're things that I would have complained about before my accident, but I really learned perspective. And I think you do when you go through a life-changing event.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard when you go through something that the average person doesn't because they can't understand. I'm not speaking from example, but I have a daughter with a disability, and people sort of, they see what you go through out in the world, but that's just one small part of your entire life.
Yeah.
And you just can't expect them to understand, because how can they?
Yeah.
Like even me sitting here talking to you, I can't possibly even begin to understand the pain that you're going through or the inconvenience of everything that's happened. But it's not all negative, because there have been some really great positives that have come out of it. And that's sort of where I want to head next. So you get bronze at the Commonwealth Games. Pretty good validation. All right, maybe I'm pretty good at this. So what happens from there? How do you, because you weren't part of the Australian team at that point, or you were?
No, I was, because of qualifying for that event. In the Commonwealth Games, I crashed down the finish line. I did a big flip. I don't know if you know, but I was coming like third, coming down the finishing chute, which was about 150 metres long. And my wheel hit the side barrier of the racing wheelchair, and it made me flip onto my back. And I was just stuck. I was on my back waiting for an official, to come and flip me back over so I could finish the last bit of the race. But it felt like forever. And thankfully they did, and I didn't lose my place. Like I still got third in the end. But from there I just, a year after that, I won my first world title in Switzerland in 2019. Yeah, 2019. So just to recap the timeline, when did you have your accident? 2017. Right.
So less than 2 years later, you're the world champion for Paratri, which blows my mind, right? And you've then just gone on from strength to strength since then. Are there any, because I can sort of guide the conversation, but are there any here? So for those who are watching along, we've got a couple of Ironman medals for able body, or maybe one, and then two that you've done para. We've got the World Championship medal, and then of course your 2 golds and your silver from the Paris Olympics. Out of all of it, and there's so many behind the camera that people can't see, but of all the things that you've done, especially since you've got bronze, you're now the world champion in Switzerland. Are there any events that were sort of to you the most significant for any particular reason, or it was just sort of they were all great?
They were all so significant, like at the time I was at. Obviously, the 3 Paris Paralympic medals are like so special. What I had to go through to get those was like extremely difficult. But like when I think about it, my 2 Ironman World Championship medals as a para athlete, like I went back to Kona in 2022 to race the Ironman World Championships as a like para athlete, when I'd raced there twice as an able-bodied. Like that was really special, like to get back there. So that's that one. But then there's this one that was my first Ironman as a para athlete in Utah, which was the most hardest event race I've ever done in my life. Like it was 2,500 meters of climbing on the bike. So like I'm climbing mountains, like going up a mountain at 4 kilometers an hour, like 120 kilometers into the bike. It was just so ridiculously hard. And the run leg in that race was like also pretty much uphill as well. But yeah, and then my first cycling world championship medal, like paracycling, when I started that. So yeah, they're all significant on my journey, and I'm proud of each and every one of them.
So how many, and for full disclosure, we had to start again because I got the intro completely wrong the first time. So you're the world champion how many times of what events?
Okay. Well,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
11-time world champion. That's including my 5 world titles in paratriathlon, 3 world titles in paracycling, and I'm even getting confused, and the rest in Ironman.
It's hard when you just
and 70.3. But yeah, like I've packed so much into this last 8 years since my accident, almost 9 years, that I even get like I even lose track, because I've not only like got all these medals and stuff, I've also had like 4 spinal cord surgeries, 2 wrist surgeries, another surgery, 3rd-degree burns over my feet where I almost had to get 8 of my toes amputated. Like, I've been through so many things. I've had other bike accidents, and to be able to look at these medals and know what I had to go through to get them, it's pretty good. Lots of hard work.
Yeah. Well, let's not just sort of brush over that, because I think that's one part of being an athlete that a lot of people don't understand, is especially an Olympic athlete, right? So my wife made the comment the other day, oh, look, it's all these people that have spent their entire life to be the best in the world at this, but you and I didn't even think about them once in the last 4 years, but we're going to celebrate them again for 2 weeks when the Olympics start again, right? And that's sort of the life of an Olympic, Paralympic athlete is I am training and suffering every day, but for 2 weeks, every 4 years, it's my moment.
Yeah.
Right. And I've always thought that that's awful because and you hear the stories, like the marathon runner who falls over at the finish line, or, and enter a tragic Olympic event here, someone who should have won and they didn't win for whatever reason, because the pressure is so big.
Yeah.
And I guess we can sort of tie it back to the start where you said, I don't get nervous. Do you find now, because you've won so much, because you are the world champion in just about everything that you do, you don't feel the pressure as much because you are confident in your ability to win the race? Or is it sort of the opposite where you feel the pressure to keep winning?
I feel more pressure after each one. Really? Like I feel, because you're expected to win. So I feel more pressure, but I also, some people can't handle the pressure and some people can handle pressure, and I feel like I can. I just block it out and do what I have to do, what I've been training for. And the only races I really get nervous for, or, heaps of nerves for, is if I haven't had a good preparation, when you're underprepared, but you're still expected to win and all that stuff. But the races I'm fully prepared for, and I've had the best, best training, that's where, I'm confident when I'm on the start line, and I just need to get the job done. And that's where I was, on the start line at Paris. That's the mindset I had. I had probably the most amount of pressure was at Paris on that start line, because I got second in Tokyo by less than a second, and I was pretty much told I need to win.
Can I ask you with Tokyo, because I watched that race too. So as you're coming around that final turnaround, and you had that other athlete that you were lapping, that was in front of you, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I blame her for you coming second, because you had to slow down so much to get past her. Yeah. Was that hard to deal with?
Oh, so hard. With 800 meters to go, I was lapping a slower competitor. And normally the road is cleared for the leader to come through, and that didn't happen. So I was stuck behind her going around the U-turn, and I lost all momentum. I was pretty much stopped almost, going so slow. And I knew the other girl, Kendall, who was coming second to me, was chasing me down, and she's really good at the racing chair, so she's always catching me. But I thought, maybe I still have enough time that I could just get to the finish line. Anyway, I got around that U-turn and around the next corner, and just went so hard for that last 800 meters, came down to the sprint finish against me and Kendall, and yeah, she's always got it over me if it comes down to that, because she's more able-bodied than me, and she can use all her core and stuff in the racing chair. So yeah, she got me just on the line, less than a second, and I just led the whole race for an hour. I felt like I let everyone down in that moment, like myself down, as well as like the whole of Australia, the whole team. Like, it was hard to get through. But yeah, other things happened in that race that shouldn't have happened, like the swim exit handlers that get you from the water to your wheelchair so you can go to transition on the wheelchair. They dropped me. So I'm in the water for like an extra 4 seconds. I'm like, pick me up, put me in my chair. And so things like that shouldn't have happened, that happened. And losing the race by less than a second, it was hard.
So how did you overcome that? Because obviously you can feel hard done by, because there are things that happened that shouldn't have happened. I know I was annoyed for you watching that athlete get in your way, and I'm just like, oh, come on. It's interesting that you feel like you let people down, because it feels like it was things outside of your control that caused that all to happen. Because if she wasn't there, you win.
Yep.
And so it's interesting to me that you wear the weight of the responsibility on your shoulders when it wasn't. Like, it would be different if you had made mistakes, where you can go, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't push hard enough here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But when it's stuff that happens to you, that you still wear the burden of that responsibility. So how did you push past that? Like, did you sit in that disappointment for a long time, or were you able to shake it off pretty quick and go, I can't sit in this?
Bit of both. Like, I chose to go out and win every race for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
To prove a point.
That's a good way to do it.
But also a week later, after Tokyo, that's where I suffered burns all over my feet. So then Tokyo was like, I'm not thinking about that now. I've got other issues that I'm need to get through.
Was that in training? I remember that happening.
Yeah, I was in Las Vegas. And after a training session, my friend put me in the front of the car, and I had my feet up on so it was a 45-degree day outside, but on the inside of the car with the aircon, it was cool. So I had my feet up on the dash, on the glass, and my feet were burning. I didn't know. But yeah, because I wasn't concentrating, because I was also, other things were happening at the time, which was, I won't go into it, but like emotionally life-changing, and shaped the rest of my life in that moment in that car too. I won't go into that part, but like, so I wasn't concentrating on my feet, and then yeah, they were burning. So went to the hospital. We were driving to Utah the next day, so the next state, and went to hospital there, and that's where they said that I'll need to lose my toes because they're so badly burnt. I'm like, no, you're not cutting my toes off. I feel like my body can heal them. So I went to the burns clinic after that, and they helped me, and like, they were amazing, the nurses and doctors there. And in the end, I didn't lose any of my toes. I healed over it was a long journey over the next 6 months. And that was hard because like redressing each toe like 3 times a day for 6 months, it was a nightmare. But I got through that. But the nurses in that moment were amazing. I'm best friends with one of them now. Like, that week as well, I was supposed to be racing the 70.3 Ironman World Championships in Utah, which the doctor said I shouldn't. But he knew he needs to leave the room and let the nurses help me, because the nurses are the ones that helped me get to that race. I raced that with all the burns. So 2 of the nurses went to the race, and they were in transition. They redressed my feet in both transitions so I could get the race done. So absolutely amazing. Yeah.
How did you go in that race?
I won the para category. I mean, there wasn't much competition, but yeah.
Still, most people would have just stayed in hospital.
Yeah.
You know, so again, that's... I only ask, I know what the result was, but I only asked because it's crazy that you're just like, no, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do this. And you just sort of thing after thing after thing. And I get the feeling that's going to be the case for you forever. That's just the way you are. You're just going to continue to push the boundaries. And we talked about this briefly just before we started recording. You did 3 events at Paris, and you've got the medals to show for it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan for LA?
Yeah, so I did 2 sports at Paris, but 3 events. So I did para-triathlon and paracycling, 2 events in paracycling. But after Paris, I came home and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if I could do 3 sports at the next games? Like, is it possible? And like, it would need to fit in the Paralympic schedule and all that. But then I thought, I could give rowing a go. Rowing would be the one sport where I feel like I could excel at, and the fitness, like it's still an endurance sport, so the fitness will carry through all sports. So that's still the goal. I started talking with the coaches and stuff probably a year ago about it, like the rowing coaches, and they're all on board with it. My other sports were on board with it. But then I had other ideas and I started winter sports this past 6 months. So put rowing on hold for now, but the plan is to get started in rowing and see if it's possible. But I also am waiting for the Paralympic schedule to come out as well, because if there's any crossovers, then I won't do it, like crossovers with my current sports.
Yeah, because you need to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Have you, this is something that I'll look up later if you haven't, but have you looked up how many athletes, if any, have done that many different events at one games?
No one's done 3 sports at one games. So you'd be the
right. So you'd be the only person, which is why it'll happen. Because if anyone's listened to the conversation for this long, they'll know once you've decided you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's going to happen. So as long as the schedule lines up, that's going to happen. But yes, so Winter Olympics. So this is the other thing. So that's another one. How many athletes? I have looked this one up. There are not many athletes, able-bodied or para, that have done both summer and winter. There are a handful, but not many. Did someone invite you to do that, or did you just go, 4 years is a long time. Let's throw some Olympics in halfway through. Is that how it came about?
Well, it has been in the back of my mind since Tokyo, actually, because Kendall, who won Tokyo, she does winter sports as well. So she does the Winter Paralympics every time. She's really good on the snow. And I think we had a few chats about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to start, but I never did. I never did anything about it. But then someone else reached out to me who worked for Snow Australia, who I've known for many years, since I was 20. He reached out to me and said, would I be keen in starting winter sports? He thinks I could have potential given, my fitness with my other sports, and I'm always up for a challenge. And this was in March of last year, so not even a year ago. And I was like, oh yeah, I might give it a go. And he said it's not too late to qualify for the Winter Olympics, Winter Paralympics, if I do the qualification races and stuff like that, and if I do well at them. Anyway, when someone dangles that in my face, I'm like, I'm up for the challenge. So yeah, it all happened so fast. I then found myself down at Perisher on snow for the very first time, in a sit ski. Oh, the most challenging thing I've done ever. I've got the fitness there, but skills on snow and how slippery it was, and you can't brake in a sit ski. There's no form of braking. Able-bodied people can snow plow. On the piece of equipment that I use on snow, it's just a seat which is molded to my body, which is attached to a frame, which is attached to 2 skis. But they're straight, they're rigid, there's no moving them, So I had many crashes in that first time. And then after that, I went to, a few weeks later, I went to Falls Creek in Victoria on snow again. And then, so twice on snow, then I found myself in Canada in December in my first World Cup.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Which is so great. Right, so how did the World Cup go?
Yeah, so the events that I do is cross-country skiing. So there's a few different distances in cross-country skiing, and also biathlon, which is essentially that's another sport. So I do 4 sports currently. So biathlon is cross-country skiing paired with rifle shooting. And there's a few different distances in that as well. So I shot my first actual rifle 2 days before racing. My first race didn't go as well, but by the third race there, I got 18 out of 20 shots and was the second best shooter. And my friend Kendall was there, who I race in paratriathlon. She was the best shooter. I was behind her. She wins like most of the events. But it was pretty cool to have her there, and she's been great, like a great support. Like, she's excited that I've started, and she's been helping me a bit, like on the snow and stuff. So
well, it's nice that you guys have been competing in the Summer Olympics for so many years now, and yet still be friendly with one another, to the point where she wants to give you advice and help you. I can tell you, if I was one of the other athletes who had been doing biathlon for years and you rock up and go, yeah, I've only picked up my first rifle 2 days ago, and you shoot 18 out of 20, they'd be like, why do I even bother? And I know it's not about them, but it's just, again, it's just another thing that you've done. Yeah. So that was December.
Yeah.
We're recording this now. It's the end of January.
Yeah.
Remind me when the Winter Olympics are?
March.
Sure.
Yeah.
So should you qualify for the team, what are your goals should you get to go and compete? Is it sort of like going back to when you were 14, you're at your first Olympic trials? I'm just happy to be here. I'm going to do the best that I can, but I'm sort of I don't have high expectations. This is more of my first exposure to it. Or is this I'm here, so I'm going to try and medal?
Yeah, so if I qualify, just qualifying has been a big challenge and will be a big achievement. And I'm in no form of medal contention. You know, I'm so new to it. You can't just jump into a sport and expect to win straight away. You got to put in the hard work of many years. So I'm not there yet. Like in 4 years' time, maybe, like I'd be up for a podium. But I mean, anything can happen. Yeah. But it is highly competitive with the Europeans and Americans that are always on snow. Like us Aussies, like it's super hard to be competitive. But yeah, I'll just be like so happy that I chased after the challenge and didn't give up, you know, the challenge of qualifying, and I actually did it. Like when I say I want to do something, I do it. So yeah, the team hasn't been announced yet. It's announced on the 25th of February, but hopefully I've done enough. I'm currently the highest ranked female in the cross country skiing and biathlon events. So at the moment, like it's all promising and all looking good for qualification. But yeah, I really had to go well in the events in Canada, and I think I did enough. And I even got an injury before those events in Canada, pretty bad injury, but I had to race through it.
That seems to be your common theme, is if you've got a race coming up, there's an injury.
Yeah.
Imagine what you could do if you weren't injured going into a race.
Yeah.
So then moving forward, you've still got years and years of Olympics ahead of you, presumably. That's the hope, right? I mean, you're going to go into Los Angeles, 28. Mm-hmm. I would assume reasonably confident if you keep your standard up that you can win it. And then I would, if I was you, because the next Olympics after that's in Australia, you'll want to compete at those ones.
I don't know. I might be too old for those ones.
But too old. I mean, you can. There's no age limit to doing it. It's purely just physical capability, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, let's assume. All right, let's assume that that's out of the question because you're too old. What with all of this has been your world for 30 years now, right? All of this sport. But your tenacity doesn't go away when the sport stops. Have you thought much about what you want to do after that? Or you try not to think that far ahead?
I've thought a little bit, but it's scary. It's hard for an athlete who's been an athlete all their life to transition into to a normal person. It's hard to let it go. I think I'm going to struggle. So I try not to think about it too much. But like if I really wanted to, I could keep going until, for a few more Paralympics if I wanted to. I also want to focus on life outside of sport now, like after LA as well. So I don't know. I don't know what's on the cards for me. Like my goal is to win my events in LA. And then I'll more than likely retire from triathlon, but I'll keep cycling. Yeah. That's where my head is at the moment. It could change. And who knows what I'm doing with rowing. But, yeah.
I get the sense with your constant striving to do better and succeed is not going to end with sport, that you will... It's daunting now because, pretty much your entire life, even before you're an adult, your adolescent to adult life has been competing for something, even amongst the tragedy and the injury and all of those things that you've dealt with, that you've always had something to aim for. I think it's pretty fair to say that's going to continue even in your personal life outside of this. I like to finish every episode in a way that will maybe leave a nugget of wisdom for people who are listening, based on all of these years of sport. And you can choose to answer this however you want. So based on all these years of sport and what you've managed to achieve, based on all of the lows from your accident to your injuries to all of those things. So everything that you've learned through all of that, and even discussing now that you're not 100% sure what comes after sport, what makes you hopeful for the future? And what's something that athletes maybe who are in the same boat as you, where they're like, I've spent every moment of my life up until this point and the end is sort of approaching. What's something that gives you hope moving forward that maybe other people who can relate to what you're going through can go, I hadn't thought of that before. Mm-hmm. I know I'm putting you on the spot. It's a big question. It's a big question. But
what comes to mind first is what gives me hope and what's helped me get through everything that I've gone through since my accident is, I want to be the person with the platform that I have. I want to help as many people as possible from my journey. And by helping people, that's what gives me hope for the future, if that makes sense. By giving other people hope, I guess, and showing what is possible, that anything is possible if you really believe in yourself, if you set your mind towards your goals that you've set, and never give up. If you work hard, because nothing comes easy, then anything is possible. Like even if you're told you can't do something, like if you believe you can, then you can. And I've been told that I can't do many things, and I've had a lot of doubters along the way. But I've proven to them and proven to myself that it's possible if you work hard and believe in yourself. And, I said when I had my accident, if I could just inspire one person from what I'd been through, then it's all worthwhile. I hope I've inspired many, but that is what keeps me going, is inspiring other people out there in their own lives, or kids out there wanting to, with disabilities or not, wanting to chase after their dreams or to be an athlete or just anything they want to do in life. If I can inspire them to do that, then it's all been worthwhile. So that's.
Well, I think that's an awesome answer. And I think I certainly would hope if it was something that you were open to, that public speaking on, on a public speaking circuit to inspire people, you'd be great at that.
Yeah, and that's what I have thought that I probably will go into. I've done a few like keynote talks, and I talk at schools and stuff like that and businesses already. But after my sport, when I've got a lot more time, then I do want to probably get on the circuit. And if I get better at the keynotes, which are extremely terrifying, getting up and speaking for, an hour, just like Q&As are easy, but yeah, keynote.
When it's just you talking, yeah.
And there's an art to it.
Well, maybe that can be the next thing that you go, all right, well, this is now what I've got to work on. Because no keynote person just gets up and talks, right?
Yeah,
It's practice. So maybe you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and I've said this to you before, I think in this world of influencers, people like you are the people who young people should be looking up to, because you're an inspirational person, and I'm certainly inspired by everything that you've managed to achieve. And I hope you go to the Winter Olympics, because me and my family will be watching for sure. But definitely LA as well. We'll wrap it up. I've already taken like an hour and a half of your time. So I really appreciate you being here. I really hope lots of people can tune in and watch and listen to this, because your story is amazing. I really do think that you're going to inspire a lot of young people. But thank you very much for being with me, and we'll leave it there.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lauren. All right, everybody. Thank you. That's it for today. I hope you got something out of that, and please tune in next time on Rule of Reason.